there was one guy I was dealing with getting a little bit pissy over the kid interrupting the call thing, and I'm like,
Cheerio!
appreciate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please. Yeah.
My bad. Please continue. It's very alliterative.
They are going to be the ones powering the experiences that every customer has.
Preference has power. I'm pretty sure Cato would say to me when I do every show, stop.
I think he would.
Those peaches are popping. Wait till you get the invoice.
Here. I have a question. When's the last time you danced? When's the last time you laughed?
Right now. I don't want to dance with you.
When's the last time you flew a kite?
Toasted Oreo.
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're insane. You're insane.
Bob Parnham says, I feel like I was just here, and he is not alone. I was just here. I did my first late night show last night with Shawn Kanungo, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think I got to bed after midnight, and now I'm doing my first breakfast show at 9 a.m. Eastern Daily Time. I think Steve Garfield gets upset with me when I mix up the EST and the EDT. Well, but at least my mom is here. Shawn, by the way, was very upset that my mom was not watching last night. I said, it's 4 a.m. So he said, well, can't we still FaceTime her? I don't know. She might have been awake, but at least she's awake now. But I'm excited because it's all the J's today. It's all the J's. It's Joe, it's Jay, it's Jason, it's Joe again. And it's just going to be a lively chat. But let's get into it today. By the way, Steve says watching again. Steve was even, good for you, Steve. You were in Clubhouse, although you raised your hand, but you couldn't quite figure out how to speak on the stage. But that's okay. And Tom Morris just went to bed before. He was like, as compelling as the late night show might have been, I'm not interested. And he went to bed. And it's okay. It's okay. Jason Falls says, your son woke me up for this. Grrr. Well, you know what? I don't think I've gone to sleep. So I'm glad you guys are all here. It is National Spinach Day. So, have you eaten your greens today? Does anybody eat spinach in the morning? I certainly hope not. But yeah, National Popeye Day, if you will. I'm just going to go through a few little things very, very quickly and then just bring my guests on. I am now basically taking all the CoronaBytes, which you will see today, and putting them together in a little video called The Week That Was, uploading that on YouTube, uploading that as well on Instagram. It's a great way to merchandise the week that was. And speaking of which, today you will hear from and see in that video Jay Samit, Tom Peters, Gini Dietrich, and Shawn Kanungo. I also did a masterclass for the Association of National Advertisers with Roxy, Richie, Fanzo, Mr. Monty, and Jeremiah Oyang, who recorded something, pre-recorded something, and I did that as an episode of my show. Right now, when I deliver a presentation, no more deliveries of presentations. It's all a show. Everything is a show. It always was, and hopefully it always will be. We're going to talk, I'm sure, crypto at some point, because I continue to try and innovate and bring you guys into the Jaffe economy. All Jaffe, all the time. I'm running a little special at the moment, if you will, which basically demonstrates what a bad businessman I am. So if you register on rally.io, if you buy Jaffe coin, all you have to do is send me one Jaffe coin, and I will send you back 2 in return. To answer the question, how do I make money? I make it up on volume. As I said, never was a good businessman, but this is designed to get you into the Jaffe economy. And I'm trying to do other things as well, whether it's for merch, like a signed copy of my book, or even just a shout out on the show. There are different ways and many ways that you can interact with the Jaffe economy. It's not just the Jaffe economy, it's the J economy too. Jay Baer, one of my guests today, has his own creator coin. And in the abundant economy, we support each other. We all rise together. The rising tide floats all boats. But today, the boats that we will float are my guests coming up in just a brief moment. But before I do bring them on, to let you know, next week I've got Ashley Zekman, Greg Lunsford, and Jeff Kirshner coming on the show. No show on Monday. It is Passover. I'm taking a break. And then next Friday, we'll see. This is actually the last community show of this form or format. So we'll see what happens next Friday. Watch this space. I'm not really sure, but seriously, I'm not trying to like leave you hanging, etc. I'll figure out something for next week. So we'll just do birthdays very quickly. Not many. There's Rick, Richard, Marilyn, Meg, and Jim on Facebook. And you know what? I was going to go into LinkedIn, and then I realized there is no LinkedIn today because for some reason LinkedIn only releases their birthdays at 10 a.m. in the morning. So there's nothing I can do there. By the way, Glenn is here. He said, I'm tired from staying up late night, but it's all good. And he said, I never got my crypto back in return. I'll make sure that I send you 2 Jaffes at least. Glenn has been an amazing supporter of the show. And when something really resonates with him, he immediately sends me Jaffe coin. And I really do appreciate it. Thank you. But you know who I really do appreciate is I appreciate Mr. J. Baer. I appreciate Mr. Joe Delagrave. I appreciate Mr. Jason Falls, all the J's, all the time. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, sorta.
You guys are all cranky.
It's early, dude.
I'm punch drunk. So just to be clear, I was drinking red wine about 12 hours ago. That better be red wine, Joe, or something else. I don't know. Red Bull, red wine, as long as it's red. So we have four. We have 3 unbelievable people here today. I'm going to introduce them one by one and give them a very easy little icebreaker, which is, what would the title of your autobiography be? So let's start with Mr. J. Baer. Jay, everyone is lining up to buy this autobiography, your memoir. What would the title of it be?
Thank you for having me on the show again, Mr. Jaffe. Nice to see you. Get out there and buy your J coin, Jay coin on rally.io. I have given this exactly 15 seconds of thought, so we'll see how this title actually resonates. You know the saying, "A bridge too far"? It's TOO, meaning that it's too big of a leap. I grew up in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, America's home of the London Bridge. I was there at the London Bridge dedication when I was just a wee tyke. So I think my autobiography would be A Bridge to Far. TO. Went a long way. A bridge to far.
Well, I love that. That sounds great. I will be the first person to buy that book with Jaffe coin or J coin.
J coin.
Whatever works. Mr. Joe Delagrave, how are you today? I can see that you are absolutely, you've been up for 5 minutes. First of all, how the hell are you? And second of all, you have an amazing story. What would your autobiography be called?
I look like this all the time, by the way, all the time. It's just, no. I think I'm drinking my cup of coffee. It's not red. That'd be weird, red coffee. But anyway, I'm toying around with the idea of calling it Crippled Cup of Joe. And again, I've thought about that for about 30 seconds since Jay was talking. But Crippled Cup of Joe, that kind of makes sense. Maybe have a cup of my life. My name's Joe. I'm crippled. So it kind of makes sense. And it's a good little tagline. There you go.
By the way, that is an absolutely brilliant title. You're welcome, by the way, for forcing you to no, it's a brilliant title. Cyrus is here. He said 6 a.m. in Seattle. This may be the only OTT show I wake up for. I like that. I didn't realize I was OTT. Well, I actually am. A lot of people say I'm OTT. And they're not referring to the show. And Tom Morris says, am I the only one here awake enough to chat? And I'm semi-zombied, but that's only because you went to bed at 9. Someone who is still growing is Mr. Jason Falls, but his bark, I think, is definitely worse than his bite. Jason, welcome to the show. And more importantly, you were guest number 191 in this little adventure of mine. You've just put out a book called Winfluence. You've also, I mean, you have so many titles. For example, you're also the inventor of handsome, and don't forget to obey the beard. Oh, look at this. There we've got a little bit of product placement as well. I love it. I love it. Mr. Jason Falls, the question on everyone's mind is, what would your autobiography be called?
Bartender, hit me.
Love it.
And those who know me know that's very appropriate, not only because I say that a lot, but because a handful of bartenders have punched me in the face before. So, yeah.
Can confirm.
That would be a good one for me. There's a lot of ways you could go with that.
But just make sure that you stick on 21. That's the only thing I would say. So, all right. So the way the format works in this show, this final community show, until next Friday, is that everyone has a 5-minute slot. We're going to start with Jay, then we're going to move on to Joe, and then finally, last but not least, Jason. And in between, we actually have a CoronaByte from the week that was. Because we have 3 guests today, we're going to actually start off with the CoronaByte, and then afterwards, Jay, you will be the first up. And if you want to respond to what you've just seen, go for it as well. On Monday, I had the incredible Tom Peters. We had massive technical issues. We had to actually stop the show and then start again. He ended up giving me over 2 hours of his time. All I can tell you is the best moments of the show were when the camera was not rolling. We had moments that I will just treasure for the rest of my life. But this is one of the CoronaBytes.
One of the titles I wanted for my next to last book is my preferred title, which the publisher wouldn't buy because it wasn't provocative enough. My preferred title was Excellence is the Next 5 Minutes. It is not an aspiration. It is not a hill to climb. Look, let's talk about you and I. I've written 19 books. I've given 2,500 speeches. I've got all these degrees. I've done this, and it's why I'm so bloody uptight right now. And I love my wife, and I love our grandkids, and I love my son. But for me, my entire life on earth is the conversation that we're having right now. Nothing else matters.
That's a hell of a statement as well. So clearly he needs to get a life if the next 5 minutes with me is, but it was just beautiful to hear. Jay Baer, you are beautiful to see and beautiful to hear. Your 5-minute slot begins now.
That was an interesting comment from the legendary Mr. Peters. I really like that idea of staying in the moment. I think it's something that we can all do better. It gets harder and harder all the time to do so because we are surrounded by distractions, many of our own making. You know who else is really good at that is Chris Brogan is really good at staying in the moment and kind of giving you his full attention, etc. So I'm gonna take a little of what Tom said there to heart over the next few days and see if I can do a better job in that in my own life. I tell you though, on a related topic, I feel like we as consumers are very close to entering into an all-time marketing maelstrom. I just kind of devised this premise last night. Here's why I think this is true. I've done a lot of research on this and a lot of the speaking that I've done since the pandemic started, and we've seen something that's really never happened since the invention of the internet itself, in that there has been huge shifts in how consumers buy and from whom they buy, because the criteria that they use to make buying decisions have been impacted extensively by the pandemic, and I don't think that genie's going back in the bottle. The data show that roughly 6 in 10, 7 in 10 consumers have actually purchased something from a business for the very first time since the pandemic. So all new set of providers. This is certainly true for me, and I suspect for many of you as well. I have a different chiropractor now, a different landscape person that we work with, several different restaurants. Like, we're spending money with different people than we did before because we care about different things than we did before. Also, we are, as people, spending time in much different ways. So I did a keynote recently for the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation, and it was remarkable to see the straight up increase in recreational angling and fishing in the U.S. and in North America. Similar increases in RVing, similar increases in golf participation, essentially everything out, tennis as well, I'm told. Everything that happens outdoors, of course, went way up because it's safer in the pandemic, et cetera. So why do I think there's going to be a marketing maelstrom? Well, the people who have disproportionately succeeded in the pandemic, so golf, fishing, RV, tennis, et cetera, they have to do everything they possibly can to hold on to those advantages. And everybody who has been disrupted or fallen short because of the pandemic, so essentially any indoor recreational activities and lots of other businesses and business categories, they're going to fight tooth and nail to claw back what they lost in the last year. So in a way that I don't think really there is precedent for, the winners have to fight really hard and the losers have to fight really hard. At the same time, you have an ecosystem where the traditional marketing tools and tactics work worse as opposed to better. Now we're outlining a lot of ad tracking technology. We've got broadcast advertising barely works at all unless it's sports. So you've got all of this, not only huge stakes for winners and losers, but a totally disrupted landscape for how do you market and how do you get your messages out. That's why I believe, and I'm going to tee this up for Mr. Fall's commentary in a little bit. That's why I believe the present and the future, but even the present really is influence marketing, because when I'm doing a presentation for state fish and game agencies, which I just did, all 50 states, and all 50 states do a report on how they're using influencers. This is fish and game departments using influencers to get people to fish. If they're doing it, everybody's doing it. So watch out, friends. If you think you're sick of advertising and marketing right now, the marketing maelstrom is right around the corner.
I just wanted to say that I am available for sponsored moderation of Clubhouse rooms on the art of fishing, fish where the fish are, hook and hold, right? Which is second only to convince and convert. But it's very interesting. I went and looked up the word maelstrom, and maelstrom is not what you see on the screen right now. A situation or state of confused movement or violent turmoil. Actually, it is maybe what you see on the screen right now. Also, a powerful whirlpool in the sea or a river. Sea, the Fishing Association of America. But it's great. You know, it makes me think of in South Africa, in Cape Town, there is Cape Point, where you have the Atlantic and Indian Oceans coming together. And, you know, a lot of people keep talking about returning to normal, what the new normal is. But this is a complete original thought, that there's going to be just this cage death match between the new winners, the old losers. And the question, of course, is whether the old losers are going to just roll over and die and or play dead, or whether they're going to come back stronger than ever before. What do the rest of you think?
Well, I mean, I'll jump in because obviously, I mean, you know, I'm 100% on board and full steam ahead on influence marketing. I wrote a book about it. I really feel like that's, you know, that we're at the beginning of that trend. And so I certainly agree with what Jay said, and the observations he's made are absolutely true. You know, the signal from the noise that is rising out of this crazy cacophony of nuts that is the communications landscape these days are influencers. Now, those I kind of broaden the definition of that and say an influential, you know, voice or signal amongst that noise might be a traditional news media outlet, but it might be a television broadcast show, or it might be, you know, this show. but it might also be, a blogger who has an expertise about something. It might be an Instagrammer who is constantly feeding their audience with really great tips and tricks and advice on how to do something. And so the media landscape, social media brought forth the democratization of media, and it made it possible for everybody to become a publisher. Unfortunately, everybody became a publisher. And now we're starting to see, the signal rise from the noise, and the noise is, it's always going to be there. There's always going to be people trying, but the ones who can actually gather an audience, share expertise, and persuade people to do something, that's the channel that brands need to start looking at more seriously.
I mean, we'll probably have this conversation in Clubhouse when we do our after show. But I was in a room the other day talking about the rise of the audio influencer, and I was like, but isn't the conversation really just the rise of the influencer?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not really sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at the people who are the influencers on Clubhouse, it's the people who are influential in other areas too. It's people who already have an audience and can migrate some of that audience over. They have something to say. There's name recognition. People know who they are. So it's not that Clubhouse is creating a new world of influencers. It's just that the influential people have another channel to talk on.
Exactly, Jason. I mean, calling people on Clubhouse audio influencers is the same as calling ministers pulpit influencers. It's just a container for what you know and who knows you. That's all it is, a container.
Exactly. The subject matter expertise, the value you bring to your audience, regardless of the channel, is what makes you influential, or what makes you an influencer, what makes you popular. What makes you influential is, can you persuade that audience to take action?
Let me tell you. I was going to say, there's your soundbite. I love that, Jay. Sorry. Go for it, Joe.
No, I was going to say, audio influencing, though, it's interesting, at least from my point of view, that you're fact checking everyone. And normally when you're seeing someone on Instagram or you're seeing someone on YouTube, or like, you're not necessarily fact checking them. When you're looking at audio influencers, everyone goes in their bio, looks at their bio, and then probably clicks on either their Twitter or their Instagram and goes like, what's this person about? And then kind of like verifies if they're talking about something that they really know about. So it's an interesting piece where audio maybe gets you. I know for me, I'm like, I better have my ducks in a row on Instagram because everyone's going there to see if I'm really what I'm talking about on Clubhouse. So it's just kind of an interesting deal on lining up some of your stuff.
That's actually an interesting observation, because I think, and Jay may be able to and Jay and Joe, both, all of us may be able to validate this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll throw this out there. People don't typically call bullshit on me on Twitter or blogs or whatnot, but they will call bullshit on me at a conference. They'll raise their hand and ask a question. And Clubhouse and audio formats create that live interaction where somebody, wait a minute, I don't think what you said was right. And so you're right, Joe. There is a little bit of sort of calling people out, fact checking, double checking. And I think that happens in a live environment, which until live streaming recently and now social audio hasn't really been that ubiquitous on the internet.
But really, how good are your emojis? That's that's the important one. All right, so this is what happens when you do a morning show. The frog is in your throat. It is what it is. Maelstrom or Maelstorm is the question. But I can tell you, if Jay Baer has a new book coming out or a new keynote, it might be called Marketing Maelstrom. Not Maelstrom, but Maelstrom. It's a brilliant, brilliant concept. And it's something that we'll all think about. By the way, we did get one question that actually wants to know, this is what people want to know. How did Jay know to set his backlighting to match his on? How did he do it?
I'm going to change it now. Here we go. We'll just make sure that people don't think that we're faking this with the magic of, I don't know, something. There we go. Now we're going to do it this way. Well, okay. How about, there we go. How's that?
You still got that glow over your shoulder.
Amazing.
You got another light in there that's doing something
Jaffe has. Small things that make a big difference. All right. Well, we're going to move on, and we're going to go to Tuesday's show, which was the incredible Gini Dietrich. And, I mean, it's kind of appropriate. Here we are, four males talking, but this is Gini talking about something that I think needs to be spoken about, which is the context of you can have it all, which was always told to women, you can have it all. And she talks about the reality of that statement over the last 12 months. Let's watch that.
For women wanting to have it all, we all read the Sheryl Sandberg book, and we all leaned in, and we all asked for the things that we wanted, and we all continued to do the things that we wanted. And to do that, we had to build a house of cards. And in some cases, we have family in town who can help with childcare or aftercare. Sometimes we have to pay for after school care. We may have a cleaning lady that comes once a week. Whatever it is that we are able to afford, or however we're able to build our village, is how we did it. But when everything got shut down, we couldn't use our village. We couldn't see our parents. We couldn't see grandparents. We couldn't have the cleaning lady come. So now you're cleaning your house. You're making every meal. You're doing laundry 16 times a day because nobody freaking leaves your house. And you're trying to run a business, and you're trying to teach school at the same time. And the House of Cards just went...
Is anybody else not hearing Joe, or is it just me?
I'm not hearing Joe either.
Oh, I do this at least once every episode, which just shows that I'm an absolute amateur and a rookie still at this, which is forgetting to unmute. No, I was just saying, I love that exchange, because here you have someone saying there's so much rhetoric, and often hyperbole and cliches. But the reality, the pragmatic reality, is often very, very different. Which doesn't mean that it's not true. It just means we really have to work a little bit harder at it. Joe, a man who's worked really hard throughout his life, your story is amazing. You are amazing. Your 5 minutes begins now.
I absolutely love what she was talking about with House of Cards. I think I can relate. I'm obviously not a woman or a mom, but I'm a dad and a husband. And a lot of times in life, when I'm trying to work really hard, whether it's winning a medal at the Paralympics, or trying to rehab back from a broken neck and figuring all that out, and or being an entrepreneur and a bunch of different stokes in the fire, and then there's just things come up throughout the house. For me, I guess, just being vulnerable, some of those things had to do with like masculinity chores, mowing the lawn. I'm back in the Midwest, so like lawn care and being out in your yard is kind of like a badge of masculinity. And I wrestled with that for a little while, because I'm like, I could spend probably 3 times as long doing some of that stuff, what it would take me with the function that I have, or I can go and spend those hours doing what I'm supposed to be doing and purpose to be doing, and I can just pay someone to do that. And so John Acuff calls them noble obstacles, and I absolutely love this, where there's things that maybe need to get done around the house, or there's things that need to be taken care of that are good and virtuous as maybe a husband and a father, but then I might be doing my family injustice if I'm just spending time doing those things because I think it's masculine, or I think I'm checking a box about being a man. Or I can hire someone to do that. They can get it done way better and way quicker. And then I'm spending my time doing things that I'm supposed to be doing. And so some of those noble obstacles, I can go, you know what? Let's have someone else do those. I don't need to do those or check a box to be masculine. I'm okay with who I am, and I know who I am, and I also know what my purpose is and what my goals are. And some of those obstacles that are there are not my goals. They're not my purpose. And so I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z instead of A, B, C. And I'm hoping that through that, my family is seeing the progress there, and I'm seeing the fruits of my labor in the way I'm supposed to be doing that.
You know, one of the things that certainly come out in the last 12 months is that we are all a lot better, or we're getting better. Not all of us, but we're getting a lot better, all of us, at being able to demonstrate a degree of vulnerability. And, you know, I don't even want to get into this idea of the weakness is the strength. It's not about weakness or strength. It's just about being able to articulate what we might have kept inside, bottled up inside us. I will never understand why, and culturally, I come from a country where men had so much shame when they felt that they had failed their wife, their kids. It's actually a cultural phenomenon amongst the Afrikaans, the Afrikaans community. When they felt that they had not lived up to expectations, they would take out their family and then take themselves out. And it happens culturally a lot. And you know, and this feeling and this fear of failure and failing your family and failing yourself became consuming. I think we see elements of it in this country with respect to just the other day, another mass shooting. And for me, I just wonder whether the ability, you know, even amidst this Clubhouseian cultural shift, people are getting a lot more comfortable at being able to be uncomfortable. And it's a damn good thing, and it's about time.
Amen to that. Absolutely. I think that the fact that more and more people are comfortable being uncomfortable and sharing, basically it just goes back to therapy. Everybody's, you know, extending a little bit of sort of that therapeutic practice of getting things off their chest, of being vulnerable, of sharing, you know, what bothers them in the world. And when you do that, there's a little bit of a burden relieved, and you do it more. I mean, I've been, you know, in and out of therapy, you know, since I was a teenager. And without it, I probably wouldn't be here today. I mean, it's literally saved my life because it's helped me get through tough times. It's helped me, you know, rationalize and bring down the good times too, so that I can, you know, stay focused and normal and pointed. But the more that the society in mass does this, oh my goodness, what a world it would be, wouldn't it? If we didn't have all this pent up anger and rage and shame and you know, sadness that makes people do weird things like, you know, shoot up a school or whatever.
And we just got a comment here that said, "We're very glad you're here, Jason. Very much so." So that came from, there we go. They just, you know, I feel the same way about you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm here as well.
I do find it interesting, though, that it requires unanimity of suffering for everybody to be okay with weakness and vulnerability.
Interesting.
Right? Like if it wasn't a pandemic that affected 100% of people, are we still at the same place where being honest and forthright about your challenges, or at least more honest and more forthright about your challenges than perhaps you were in 2019, would that still be okay, at least in this country, culturally, right? I was talking to a client yesterday on Zoom, and she works with a very, very large company, and it was just pandemonium, right? There's kids screaming for iPads, there's dogs, you know, it was pestilence, there was locusts, I think. And you know, you just got to laugh. You're like, yep, 2021, baby. That's just how it is, right? And 2019, that would have been verboten in every way, shape, or form, right? And to me, the only reason we got there is that everybody went through the same thing, right? If it was circumstantial, like, oh, yeah, you know, tornado hit your town or whatever, then we don't all share it together. But the one thing that I've really noticed, I've never been happier to have kids in college, because all my colleagues at Convince and Convert and many of our clients have younger kids at home. And man, what a challenge. I am very fortunate to have older kids, for sure.
And by the way, you forgot cicadas. This is 2021. The cicadas.
I am in Falls, and I are both in cicada land, so we are very much looking forward to the 2021 brood, the 17-year brood emerging from their long slumber to disrupt our summer.
Yeah, soundproofing's going in the Falls household quickly.
Tom says, of course, even in a pandemic, there are arseholes aplenty in the world. And I have to say, I've actually been quite surprised that people are that people are still acting that way. There are still people that have the same bad habits, even in things like just email like etiquette or not responding or leaving. That people are, first of all, I think what Jay said is an absolutely brilliant point. It did take everyone to be I've felt like if I talk about, my revenue basically just falling off a cliff, I didn't feel like I was necessarily, there was no courage, there was no bravery in being able to say no one was booking speakers or all these, because I knew everyone was on the same page, and I knew there were people worse off than me. So like it was quite liberating in a weird way to know that we were all going through this together, and that has definitely allowed all those guards and walls and gates to kind of just move to the side. So a really, really good point. We're going to move on. I love the conversation. And we're going to go into the next to last CoronaByte. It's very interesting because, earlier I spoke about how the weakness becomes the strength. I often talk about David Rindle as well, who talks about that too. But this is a great little exchange with Jay Samit, talking about how we can rethink and reimagine obstacles. I guess the analogy is there's a giant rock in the river, and the water does not try and, beat down the rock or refuse to move forward. The water just goes right around the rock. And over time, days, weeks, months, years, decades, the rock is reduced to nothing but sand. Sometimes it may seem insurmountable, but
see, I take it the opposite. That rock is not moving. And unless you want to wait, 2,000 millennia, to turn it into sand, how do you make the rock the opportunity, right? People fly all the way to Ireland just to kiss a rock because somebody marketed it as the Blarney Stone, right? So how do you take that obstacle and turn it into a positive? That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Quite brilliant, that comment.
I've never been to the Blarney Stone, but it feels like the most overrated tourist attraction in the world.
It is a rock.
It's also really contagious. Like, that feels like the worst place to go right now is the Blarney Stone, right? That's like a kissing booth with geology combined. It's a really bad idea.
Yeah, but you can actually get, but they now are coupling it with a vaccination as well. So it's kind of
well, if you can't afford the travel, I can tell you, because I've done this a couple of times a week for the last 30 years. Just drink enough that you fall face first on the pavement and you kiss that, and you got it all. The experience is there.
My kids will not have a lemonade stand this year. They're just going to have a kiss the Blarney replica stand. They're going to make millions. It's going to be great.
Or it could be a purple stone. You could call it the Barney Stone. So there are so many ways to turn this weakness into a strength. A chiffon stone.
Okay, somebody in one of these states where weed is legal, somebody's going to have a strain that's called Blarney Stoned. And it's going to be like an Irish marijuana brand. So thank you. That one's free, friends. My gift to the world.
And I want to thank you, because yet another episode of the show will be rejected by YouTube.
Thank you. You can edit that out.
No, I can't. There's too much. But I do love the conversation. Jason, you are our closer today. What is on your mind, my friend?
Well, I'm glad we lightened the conversation a little bit, because you woke me up early and I get cranky. And when I get cranky, I rant. And you guys also started off the show talking about your crypto magics, smoke and potion bullshit with your coins and things. And so what I would like to do is share with you what the real people think of crypto stuff. And then have you maybe try to convince me that I'm wrong, and or explain at least explain NFTs to me, because I still can't get my head wrapped around what this crap is. So Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff is for normal on the street, flyover state people like me, is potion and magic, and has nothing to do with reality, because all it does, I put my money into an app and it takes my money away from me, and I can't get that money back because as soon as I put my money in, the market falls out and the money goes away. No one will buy my Bitcoin or my other Coinbase things from me, at least not at the same price. It has to be a lower price. So it's just a way for my money to go away. Now they come out with these crazy NFT concept. And so here's what I know about NFTs. It is a digital asset that if you own it, everybody thinks you're rich. And you can't sell it, and nobody will buy it. And you probably paid some money for it to someone who's probably sitting in the corner laughing at you for spending money on something that's imaginary that you can't do anything with. All I want to know about NFTs, if the Kings of Leon album is an NFT, can I play it on my freaking iPod? I want to be able to hear the album. That's all I care about. I'll pay my 13, 14, 15 bucks to be able to think it, but I don't want to own anything virtual that people are, that I can't get my money back on if I don't like it. Right. And so NFTs to me are, and cryptocurrency, basically what this is this is a Dunning-Kruger thing for rich people. Right. It's people who don't know what they don't know. And they think that it's cool to have something virtual that's allegedly worth a whole lot of money, but it's really not worth crap and it doesn't get you anywhere. And so the rest of us are sitting here watching people paying all these exorbitant rates for something that's imaginary that they can't ever get their money back from. And we're just scratching our head like, what the hell is this? Can I hold it? No. Can I put it in my bank account? No. Will it help me pay my mortgage? No. Will I ever get my money back if I buy it? Probably not. What in the hell this is Dungeons and Dragons for adults. You guys are trading gold and frankincense and silver and copper and shit and rolling 20-sided dice, and the rest of us are going not NFT but WTF. What the hell are we talking about here? What is this crap, and why should any of us care?
Baer response.
Well, the one part I will definitely take umbrage with is lack of value, because the value of a thing is what somebody else is willing to pay for it. So there is definitely value when you think about something like Bitcoin, which is just sort of an adjunct of the whole blockchain movement. Yes, Bitcoin tends to bounce up and down a lot in terms of its valuation, but it's been around almost a decade now, and clearly people will pay for it. And you can pay your mortgage with Bitcoin. You can buy just about anything you want with Bitcoin. So it is an actual currency. It's no different than the drachma or the kroner. It's just not run by a government entity, but rather by a mysterious shadowy collective, which may or may not be better news, but it is definitely different news. Allegedly, there's a real person.
At least it's public. At least it's public.
That's right. And that's kind of the point, right? If the U.S. government decides to print a bunch of money, which does happen and has happened over the last year, yeah, there's kind of sort of some ways to know about that, but it's not a public ledger, right? You don't have like actual bullet points and details and a spreadsheet on that, which is why Bitcoin and cyber currencies of all types have some real advantages, because everybody knows what's square and on the level and what's not. Now, certainly, the speculative nature of all these things, I think, does it a disservice, because it makes it feel way shadier than it possibly is.
Yeah.
NFTs, which I think means no effing touching, because it doesn't actually exist in 3 dimensions. To me, I still struggle with that a little bit. This idea that like the physical thing exists, but you can have the digital copy of the physical thing. That one's hard for even me to get my arms around fully. But I will say this, Falls. You could very well be right. You typically are. But I will say this. Everything that we take for granted now in the world, I mean every single thing, was once new, ridiculous, and scary. Airplanes were once new, ridiculous, and scary. ATM machines were once new, ridiculous, and scary. Air fryers were once new, ridiculous, and scary. Instant pot, right? Like bourbon was at one point new, ridiculous, and scary. So just because we don't have a tremendous amount of experience doesn't inherently ipso facto mean that it's less than. It just means that it's different than. So I want you to not be fully closed off to the premise, but I definitely understand, as somebody who lives in a flyover state, that when I talk to my friends and neighbors, it no doubt feels like I am from the future. No question.
My only response to that is you're right, and I'm open to it. I'm always open to it, and I've been wrong before, and I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong when I am. The only difference between an NFT and all of the things that were, scary, new, and different years ago is that they existed. NFTs are an imaginary
three-dimensional
thing.
Versus two-dimensional, yes.
An imaginary thing, just like the gold, frankincense, and myrrh that the D&D heads traded for druids and knives and swords and shit in that game. You can't hold it. You can't do anything with it. And I will say this about Bitcoin. I understand that there's an entire economy out there that runs on Bitcoin. I get that. And I understand that that's real. But if I go down to my bank and say, okay, it's time to pay my mortgage, here's my Bitcoin, they look at me like I've got three heads. They're just like, no.
Not for long, though.
Well, okay.
Not for long.
I don't know if you saw Justin Levy just said there's a Bitcoin machine in our grocery store right next to the red box.
Can you actually hold a Bitcoin?
Justin is not living in Kentucky, however. I just want to point that
you got
out.
to put a quarter in that machine, and then you turn it, and the gumball. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, nice. That's what it. Can you
Crypto
chew it? I don't understand.
Crypto ADMs, but I just want to go and. Obviously, we've heard speculation not speculation. Elon Musk has said that you will be able to buy a Tesla with crypto. I want to say with full disclosure that I have not been in one single room or conversation about NFTs. I'm with you, Jason. I don't like the hype. I don't like the fact that you can just sense the hyping of it. I will go back to what Jay said, which is value is really, and that is the concept of any market is what someone's going to pay for it. Here's a thought that I had that I wanted to share with you. If you bought a piece of art, a very Beeple's, whatever, first 5,000 days, whatever you called it, went for, I don't know, gajillion, $60 million. If you bought a piece of art, and you took that piece of art and you hung it up in your dusty, musty, living room, dining room,
right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. Or there. And you didn't share it with the world because you didn't want to or didn't need to, or why would you? Maybe if you were generous, you would loan it to the Met for a while and so people could share that. You own it and you keep it yourself. The NFT solution starts to speak to this abundance economy where, to your point, it exists and everyone has access to it and can cut it and paste it and do with it that, and view it for free. But there's still one owner. And when you start getting into rights and copyright and royalties and compensation for creators or to creators, where watermarks and ownership actually now can be traced, I think it starts to get interesting. So I have not dived into this. I am even cautious with the Jaffe coin, but I love the fact that people. I mean, for someone who's created, almost every day of their life content without charging for that content. When somebody sends me 10 Jaffe coins, even if the bottom falls out and they end up being worth nothing, it's not about worth. It's about a statement of gratitude, and the fact that I can be tipped that way is amazing. And I'm not, I'm just one creator. There are tens of thousands who are also influencers as well. So, I think where most people are saying we're bottom of the first inning when it comes to both crypto and NFTs. I will not profess to even understand NFTs, more than what I'm letting on right now. But I've learned one thing with the space. It's back to what Jay said, which is, we never want to be, and I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying we never want to be in a position to be able to, like Clubhouse. People have said, there are people that I respect tremendously on Twitter who have come out and poo-pooed Clubhouse. And I just use the Rex Briggs line, right? Which is, don't look at the finger, look at where the finger's pointing. So for me, I'm less worried about the tactic and I'm more interested in where are things heading. So that's what I say as well. And I love the rant. I love that comment about Dungeons and Dragons. This is why you are the great legendary Jason Fall.
It's what happens when you get me up early.
I love it. I love it. You know what? I got to say that based on this conversation, I might have to just have the three of you back every single Friday for the new. We're going to go into the final CoronaByte.
Let's do it earlier.
Huh?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hit me at 7 o'clock in the morning and see how magic you think the show is.
I'll do the show. I'll do the show from bed.
If I can turn up the crank in Falls, I'll do it at 5 a.m. So last night, and this was probably said at about 10:15 or 10:20, Shawn was on the show. He actually spoke about NFTs and crypto. He's very bullish on it, but this is something completely different. So let's just watch the CoronaByte as we wind down. You live, you operate on a global platform.
And I think being from a city, in the fun fact that I said, being from a city that no one's ever heard about, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
How has that actually turned into a strength for you?
I think it forces you to push, right? I always had to, no one was going to tap me on the shoulder and tell me that I could do something. I always had to push, whether it's based on the city that I was in or, the color of my skin or whatever it might be. I needed to get my ideas and my projects and my initiatives out there because I knew I didn't have the ecosystem around me to do that. And so I think living in a small city like Edmonton, in Canada, you just learn that you have to hustle in order to get noticed, in order to get recognized.
Definitely a common theme, throughout what Joe, Jason, and Jay have spoken about, what these CoronaBytes have brought in as well, which is turning the weakness into a strength. Dave is here, Dave Delaney, the nicest man in social media. He said, "I love Edmonton." And Justin just asked, bourbon instead of milk in your cereal? That
always.
Exactly. I mean, it's just an obvious statement, isn't it? We're going to wind down. I wanted to just read to you yesterday or last night in my seated soliloquy. This is just a little excerpt from it. When I look back at my last year, it's filled with a series of consecutive failures. But when I put them together, take a step back and look at the complete body of work, I can only smile with pride and accomplishment. And then I get back to work because I have a show the next day. That's how I feel about mixing it up. And I started with these community shows with 9 people plus me is 10. And then we reduced it and then we reduced it again. And certainly the sweet spot I feel for this format is 3 people. Not just 3 people plus me, but these 3 people in particular. So we're going to ask each of them just to, whatever is on their mind, anything that they want to promote, give them the floor, but also ask them this week's question, which is, what single event in your professional life are you most proud of? Easy questions, as I said. So Jay, we're going to begin with you. Jay is the founder of Convince and Convert, the co-host of Social Pros podcast, the man that understands how to coordinate jackets and lighting. Is there anything he can't do? Jay, what's going on in your life? And also, what is the single, event in your professional life you're most proud of?
Well, speaking of Social Pros, I guess I'll reference that. We've been doing weekly podcast episodes now since January of 2012, so almost at episode 500. But we're doing something different. Starting on April 16th, we are going to do our first ever Social Pros deep dive. What we've discovered is that trying to describe the entire social media program in a large organization is hard to do in 30 or 40 minutes because social is so pervasive now in big companies. So we're going to do a Social Pros deep dive. We're going to release 5 episodes at once so you can binge them all. And it's going to be a Social Pros deep dive on Sam's Club. So we're doing episodes dedicated to social listening, episodes dedicated to social care, episodes dedicated to paid, etc. We're really excited about this format. So we're going to do a little 5-episode sprint starting April 16th. You can find it in your podcast players or at socialpros.com. In terms of the question, I have been extraordinarily fortunate in my professional career. So there's lots of things I could probably say there, but I'll tell you this. Of all the people that I have hired or have worked with me over the years, I think the current number is like 17 people that I've worked with have gone on to start their own companies and create some measure of success for their families and others, and that's what I'm the most proud of.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Jay. There's nothing more powerful in the world than being able to give someone a job, but then to see them rise, flourish, and go out on their own. Joe Delagrave, what's going on in your life? And also, of course, the question today is, what is the single event in your professional life you're most proud of?
Yeah, I think probably today the best clip that I saw was about The Rock and not moving the rock. For me, I realized that my opportunity in life was my reaction to my paralysis. I couldn't change it. It wasn't going to change. I could go to China or wherever and try to plant stem cells and blah, blah, blah. And but in reality, my paralysis isn't going to change. And so it becomes my opportunity if I so choose it. And so for me, I think choosing to share my story, choosing to be vulnerable and hopefully share my story, not to inspire people. I always joke, I don't want to be anyone's inspirational porn. So I can get up there and in my wheelchair and be like, oh, you're so inspirational. I could be the biggest a-hole, but hopefully choosing to share my story so I can inspire other people's story. Other people can look in the mirror, take personal responsibility for their life, and choose to find their opportunity within that rock that's not going to move. So that's what I'm most excited about for the future and most proud of in my professional career.
You are a rock, my friend, and another man who is immovable in more ways than one is Mr. Jason Falls. Jason, who has just put out a book that everyone is talking about, raving about, but more importantly, he is the inventor of Handsome. And don't forget to obey the beard. You can buy Winfluence at winfluencebook.com. What are you proudest of, Jason Falls? Yep, you did it. You're on mute. It's not just me. I love it.
Oh, well, that's too bad because I had something really funny to say there. There's lots of things on my list. I discovered Jay Baer. I threw Joe Jaffe under the bus in my first book. There's a couple things that I could be really proud of. But I'll actually tear down some of the gruff exterior here. I worked with the National Center for Families Learning several years ago on a content strategy that became Wonderopolis. And Wonderopolis is basically not a whole lot more than a blog, but it's a place where the NCFL, the National Center for Families Learning, created this website to extend the learning experience for students in the home. So to take, the students could go home and share this idea, this wonder of the day with their parents, or their parents could share that with the kids and sort of reimagine and re-engage learning in the home. In the COVID era, it makes, it's just been an incredibly powerful thing for a lot of families out there. They publish a wonder of the day, and it's just some exploration into a topic. I think it was in 2016 or 2015, Time Magazine named it one of the top 50 most important websites in the world. And I had a small part to play in making that kind of idea come to life. And that makes me feel good at night knowing that, I can go out and play on the internet all day, but every now and then I do some good.
It's more than every now and then. Jason, it's great getting you up early in the morning. Let's do it more often. It is 10 a.m. We're going to head into Clubhouse right now. I want to thank my guests today. You guys are amazing, and you know the show, so you know that the show would not be complete without Mr. Chuck Norris to let you know how you did today.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. Let's head into Clubhouse. Thank you, guys. This was amazing.
Thanks, buddy.
See ya.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.